is probably not a day that there isn't imposter syndrome among all of us. Even people at the top, we all feel like, who am I to do this? If you have the pull, if you have the calling for it, dive in, put it on the shelf and start doing the inner work. Because there is something inside of you that is blocking you from moving forward. The more you love yourself, the more love you have to give, the more love you can receive.
Lisa, first of all, I'm so excited that you're here. I can't wait for this conversation. We basically just recorded like a 15-minute podcast episode before we even hit play. And what we were talking about, just catch the listeners up, was just really how I think a lot of times, especially for women who are maybe considering breaking into the online coaching space, a lot of times I think what can hold people back is thinking, oh my gosh, there's so many coaches out there, so many divorce coaches. And you and I were just having a pretty killer conversation. You realized very quickly your niche as far as like really wanting to help women answer the question, should I stay or should I go in a marriage? And my response to that was, God, like almost better you than me. And not because I don't care about that demographic of women. Of course I do. I was in that position once. I just meant that what I have realized is that my energy and the transformation that I'm best at helping women with, divorced women with, is definitely more of a strategy type energy as opposed to, like you said, that softer feminine energy. So anyways, we were just laughing about that because yes, obviously there's enough room for everybody in this space to help.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, here's the thing that I think people don't realize is there's so many different phases of someone going through a divorce. There's the initial, should I stay, should I go, which is a huge, really important one. I was in that place for like 5 years, and that's probably why I attract people in that area. Because I've lived it. I've gone through it. I was the one who wanted the divorce initially. Then there's the middle place of I'm in the middle of the divorce, help. And there's a strategy piece to that. I'm out of my divorce. I want to thrive. Maybe they haven't done the healing work. Maybe they're like, oh my gosh, I've done the healing work and I want to become a coach. I want to help other people. So there's all these different places. And it's so funny because Amber was like, that's her zone of genius, is helping people become coaches. I could never do that. But people ask me all day long, like, well, how did you do that? And I'm like, oh. I mean, I could give you what I did, but I don't know how to teach people to do that.
Well, I'm just so curious. How did you do that? Because there's a lot of women that listen to this podcast that are looking at their situation. And why I'm so on fire for what I do is, yes, I geek out on coaching, on business and all of that. And I love all of that, but it's more such a deeper why for me. And it's really because I really care about helping women to stand on their own 2 feet financially. I never, ever, for me, women always having their own damn money is so freaking important to me. There's a lot of women though, who maybe look at women like you and I, who are in the online space and who have made a career out of this. Maybe that was easy for you, but I could never do that. So I always love getting different perspectives. Like, how did you get into this industry?
So you want to hear a little bit of my backstory?
Yeah, yeah, girl. Come on.
I was married for close to 14 years. I was with my ex-husband for almost 20. We were in the should I stay, should I go phase for like close to 5 years. I did a lot of therapy during that time. We did couples therapy. When he decided to move out, I started living my 20s and my 40s. Don't do that. That's a big mistake.
You said you started living like you were in your 20s, in your 40s. Is that what you said?
Correct.
Oh my God. I can understand that. Okay. Yep.
And a lot of people do that. So if you're doing that, no shame. I did it. No judgment.
Sure.
Try not to do that. It's probably not the best strategy. After a couple of years, I was like, oh Lord, I'm the common denominator of my life. If I don't do something, this is going to get bad. It's going to get ugly. Therapy wasn't calling to me. I'm kind of done talking. And very similar to how I would say 95% of all of my clients come to me, they follow me on Instagram. Following a coach on Instagram, reached out to her, did a clarity call, signed up for her program, and it literally transformed my life. And I was like, ooh, I want to do that. I worked in the entertainment industry for 20 years. I sold motion picture film when film actually existed.
Oh, right.
And went back, became a certified coach, and have been doing this ever since. I want to say this. There is probably not a day that there isn't imposter syndrome among all of us. Even people at the top, right? We all feel like, who am I to do this? How am I doing this? One of your clients comes to you, they're like, you have helped me so much. Oh, that's why I'm doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Damn, I'm really good at this too.
Yes.
here's the thing. If you have the pull, if you have the calling for it, dive in. When I started, when I went to, I don't know if you guys follow The Angry Therapist, but he has a coaching school. I went to his coaching school. When I went, I wasn't to become a coach. I was like, oh, I just wanted to work on myself. And it was interesting to me. I didn't start coaching for another year.
Okay.
A long process.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say what kind of held you back from diving into that then?
And by the way, his is not a divorce specific. You guys want to, anyone who's listening is interested in actually becoming a divorce coach, I would go to someone who specializes in it. Yeah. 100%. I'm sorry, what was the question?
After you did that, even you had that coaching cert from The Angry Therapist, why did it take you a year to get going? Was anything holding you back, like any kind of mindset? Was imposter syndrome preventing you from going?
I was like, who am I to do this? I don't want to be seen. I was like terrified of showing who I was on Instagram, and I didn't know how to get clients. I didn't know where to start. It was like all very overwhelming to me. Really, I think the reason I did it is because during COVID, I got laid off.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, like what am I going to do now? So I was like, I might as well try this. Yeah, I had nothing to lose.
For me, that was a very similar story. My first company that I built in the online space, in the health and wellness space, got sent home from COVID. Well, I guess like this is my time to build this business out. So, well, I appreciate you sharing that. And I love that you mentioned the imposter syndrome piece of it, because I think that I know there are so many women listening to this podcast that are more than capable of creating an additional stream of revenue for themselves in the form of a coaching business. It's not to say that everybody has to become a coach in the divorce space. I do find though, and I don't know if you know this to be true too, divorce is obviously something that just changes you. It was one of the most traumatic things I had ever been through in my entire life. And I know that a lot of women, why they end up going through divorce and then wanting to get into coaching in the divorce space is because, God, you learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about just how to navigate a lot of the relationship challenges and all of that. And I know for me, when I got out of my divorce, I didn't really know what helping women would look like. I just knew for me, it was like me getting into the coaching space was a way for me to not make everything I had just been through all in vain. I was so desperate to find the purpose in the pain. I just felt like there was no way that I had gone through what I had to go through during those freaking 3 years of my life and not share it with other people. I almost felt like as a human being, that sounds so dramatic, but I'm just dead serious. I just felt like it was such a disservice to other women out there who maybe don't have access to some of the resources that I did when I was going through my divorce and some of the things that I realized. And if I could just help somebody, one person, then for me, like that was enough for my why.
Yeah, I love that. I have a workshop called Turning Your Pain into Power. And there's so much truth to that. Like that gives you a fire in your belly to be like, wow, like I want to take everything that's gone through in my life and help someone else. Yeah. And it feels good to help other people and it lights you up. My favorite days are when I wake up and when I'm like, that session yesterday was everything I needed and more. And I'm so grateful for you. Damn. Like
you're like, damn. That. Yes.
Right. And it feels so good. I've been divorced a long time, 8 years. So that's like way in my past, but I love being the light for someone else. If someone can look at me and be like, okay, if she's gone through it, she's done it, and she's gone to the other side and is happy, I can too.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm curious for you, one of the other kind of objections that I hear from women who are wanting to break into the online space are, well, it is going back to that imposter syndrome of like, oh my God, well, who am I to coach, especially those who are wanting to coach in the divorce space? Who am I to help women with this when I myself am still navigating this? And it's not just true for the divorce space, somebody who's coaching career coaching and she's like, I'm still trying to figure out my career. Who am I to coach on this? I'm sure you were still probably navigating just the healing piece of it from divorce. Did you have any of that when you got going of, damn, I'm still kind of working through some of this stuff myself at all? Did you have any of that?
I mean, I think I'm always growing and I'm always evolving.
Yes.
Right? What I would say to that, who are you not to? If you have a gift and you have a talent, it is I would say it's your right to like go out and share it. Helping other people is the most beautiful gift you can give the world. It's your desire. Whatever you're desiring is desiring you. Put it out there. Give it to the world. Give your gift to the world because this world needs it. I mean, definitely like in the beginning phases of my career as a divorce coach, I was like, who am I to do this? That time I was way out of my divorce. But here's the thing. Have I been in toxic relationships since then? I know. I teach this. I knew I was in one. And I still, people come to me and I'm like, oh, I've been in a trauma bond. I've made all the mistakes.
Sure.
I think that's why people relate to me is because I've been there. I'm no better than anyone. I'm still learning.
Yes. 1,000%. We're still figuring. I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, I don't know. I'm a business coach, but I don't know everything there is to know about business. There's always the next level. You're always growing. I have a business coach and my business coach has a business coach. And I think he probably does too. So I totally agree with that. And I really appreciate you sharing that. I think it's so, so important for so many women to hear. So I want to switch gears just a little bit because I know women are diving into this episode right now because they want us to get into the nitty gritty of talking about the topic of should I stay or should I go? First and foremost, I love that you just kind of normalize being in that limbo state for, like, I think you mentioned 5 years when you were going through that. From the moment that my marriage kind of imploded to when I finally pulled the trigger to file for divorce, I was in that for a couple years as well. And it can feel, number one, so isolating. Number two, it can feel so tormenting because it's just like, it's so all consuming. And so for that woman who is listening right now, who is in that place, I'm just curious, what is the very first step that you take your clients through in answering that question and getting that clarity?
You're going to probably be shocked what I say, but I actually tell them to put it on the shelf. Put that question on the shelf for the exact reasons you just said. It's so paralyzing. When you are in this should I stay, should I go phase, it's all consuming. It's overwhelmed your whole life. And you're like, I need to know. When you're there, you're stuck. And you actually can't make a very rational, logical decision from that place. It's almost impossible. So you'll stay on that hamster wheel for a really long time if all you're thinking is like, what am I doing? I need to make a decision doing this. So what I say is like, put it on the shelf and start doing the inner work because there is something inside of you that is blocking you from moving forward. And there's some limiting belief, some kind of story you're telling yourself why you can't actually leave or work on your marriage. And I've had people come into my world that I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm over my husband, but I'm so scared. And so they start working on themselves. They start to rebuild their self-confidence, their self-worth, their self-love. Their husbands see it and they're like, oh, damn, what's she doing? They start to work on themselves and they come together. Then they work on it. I've had people come and be like, I don't know. I'm just so confused. They start working on themselves. They do the deep inner work. That's like what I really do with my clients is that deep inner work, clearing our subconscious, all the good stuff. And they rebuild that self-confidence and that self-worth. And they're like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. We're just not aligned. Because here's the thing. The basis of law of attraction is like attracts like. If you start at the same place and you start working on yourself, that person who's working on themselves energetically will start to rise. They will either see that and be, oh, damn, I want to meet you and rise with you, or they won't and they'll go like this. And clarity comes way more naturally and faster.
I mean, absolutely. I'm curious. So as a part of, we mentioned inner work, and I know some people are like, okay, what all does that really include? Like spirituality, is that a part of kind of the inner work? I'm just curious that you help clients with as well, maybe reconnecting. When I say spirituality, I mean more so like reconnecting, obviously, with their soul, their intuition, maybe reconnecting with, let's talk about that a minute, because I can tell you in my marriage, that right there, that spiritual journey, that journey for me of doing that inner work, reconnecting with my higher self, that is what ultimately led to my clarity as well. And I often say, when I realized that the marriage was over was when I realized that to stay in the marriage was to deny myself. And I couldn't have got to that point without doing that quote inner work and reconnecting with myself. So for somebody who maybe is not as well versed in the personal development space, what does that look like for somebody?
I'm going to break it down a little differently. Same concept, just a little differently. When someone comes to me, usually, I'm going to go 95% of the time, someone's heart and mind are fighting, right? They're super disconnected. So when I say do the inner work, the invitation is to reconnect your heart and mind so that your self-confidence rises so that you can make that. And either way, whether someone stays or goes, I'm happy either way. I'm not biased. Totally. I'm not pro-divorce. I'm pro-be happy. When you say the inner work, it's getting clear on what your limiting beliefs are, knowing what that story is that you're telling yourself, going to where that started. Where did you first learn that I'm not good enough? I'm not worthy of love. I am too much. I'm not enough. Whatever your story is, and we all have one. We're all battling. Our subconscious makes up 95% of our thoughts. Think about that. 95% of the day, there is a broken record going on in the background in your mind, whispering, you're not enough. You're not good enough. And you're actually living your life from that. So getting clear on what that is, we can then go to the root. Where did that start to get curious about it. How actually true is that? Heal it, let it go. And then we create new neural pathways in our brain to write a new story. And then we start living from that place of I am enough. Love positive affirmations. I think they're amazing. It's a huge part of my practice. But once we clear the limiting belief, write the new story, then we have the positive affirmations. But if you don't feel it in your heart, nothing changes. The piece that really has to connect is the somatic piece, the body piece, like feeling it in your body and believing it in your mind. Then it all comes together.
Yes, I love that. I'm curious, what is the most common limiting belief that you see in women who are in that kind of state of purgatory? And I call purgatory meaning that deciding whether you're going to stay or go, it is hell. Anybody who's lived it, they know it is hell. It's awful. What's the most common limiting belief that you see?
I am not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm too much.
And how does that, though, show up consciously for women? What I mean by that is I think that I don't know, and at least this was for me, because yes, that story of not being enough, that is a theme that has plagued my entire life that I've had to work through. But it wasn't you too, right? But for me, and I don't know how it was for you, it kind of flew under the radar because it wasn't a conscious thought that I was having. I wasn't telling myself you're not good enough. It wasn't that. For somebody who is really, that is a limiting belief, what are the ways consciously that's showing up? Or what are some of the ways that they may not realize that that limiting belief, I'm not enough, is really manifesting for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So look at your relationship. Like, what are you accepting? What kind of bad behavior? If your best friend came to you and was like, oh my gosh, my husband just told me I'm a piece of shit, but like you're accepting it and you're making excuses or whatever, or you're staying with someone that is emotionally abusive, or you see it a lot with people who are with addicts. I have to stay. I have to help them. They are at the bottom of the totem. Think about if you're just getting breadcrumbs from your significant other, your needs aren't being met. Those are all signs that you have a subconscious belief that you're not enough.
Yes, absolutely. I know for me, it was mine showed up a lot, was actually in the form of people pleasing, because I felt that even though that is like a coping mechanism, people pleasing, but ultimately, I think where that stemmed for me is this constant, because I didn't feel enough in myself. And so this constant push to do for others so that I could feel needed, feel wanted. It was because I didn't feel like I was enough as it is. And so it's interesting when you start diving into that inner work, you really start to notice, in ways that you didn't even expect, like, how is this showing up for me?
There's patterns that we form from the belief. So we can either overcompensate, we can people please, overdo, we maybe don't try hard enough because what's the point? So there's different patterns that we start to just do out of survival mode. So that's why when you're in that should I stay, should I go phase, most of the time your nervous system is really dysregulated. And you start to kind of come from that like survival mode of, okay, if I just do this, I'll survive. I'll make it to another day. I can stay a little bit longer. But also realize that you're holding on to these limiting beliefs. They're serving a purpose for you in some way. I always ask my clients, like, how is this serving you? And the first thing, it's not, but it is, because you are consciously choosing to hold on to it and it's helping you in some way. It's probably not the most effective way to get to what you want. But that's part of it.
We're talking kind of about limiting beliefs or stories that we tell ourselves. Let's talk about the big one. And this is the one that honestly that really break my heart and fire me up at the same time. And the first one that I will say is that really breaks my heart is when women tell me that they are staying in the marriage for the children. Let's talk about that one for a hot second. Yeah,
that's a hot one. I don't know any mom that hasn't come on a Zoom call with me and it's like, I don't want to mess up my kids. So there's a few things I always say to them on that first initial call. One would be, your kids don't need you married, they need you happy. Kids feel energy. Kids feel energy more than adults do. So let's think about this for a second. I actually don't even know where you are, but you're not in the same state as I am. Okay, so you're in Atlanta. I'm in Seattle at the moment. I can feel your energy through this screen. You can feel mine. Kids feel energy way more because they don't have all the bullshit in their brain going on. That's just noise. So if you are in an unhappy marriage in any way, it doesn't have to be it just can be unhappy. You can have fallen out of love. You could just not want to be touched by your husband, whatever it is. They feel that. What kids need you is to be happy, whatever that looks like to you. If you are staying for your kids, is that really serving them? And then I would always ask, if your child ends up in the relationship that you are in, are you okay with that? Because the truth is, what you are modeling is love. That's what their version of love is. That's all they know to be love. So they will end up in a relationship very similar to the one you are in. If you're okay, stay. If you're not, put on your big girl, big boy pants and make some big moves.
Absolutely. I can tell you, I mean, when I was really deciding what I was going to do in my marriage, that for me was looking at my daughter and also my son, but really my daughter. The thought of her looking at me 20 years from now, I was even so ashamed in that moment. I was so ashamed of my future self who had stayed in a marriage that I knew was denying myself of the love and the safety and the security that I needed as a woman. I couldn't imagine looking my daughter in the eye, who I'm trying to raise as this very strong and confident and powerful woman, and saying to her, I knew that it wasn't right for me. I knew that I wasn't being treated the way I should have been, but I stayed anyway. I couldn't even, that right there was like, I refuse to do that. I can't look my daughter in the eye 20 years from now and justify staying in this situation. As her mother, if she were in that situation, I would never advise her to stay.
And there's tons of studies, by the way. I think Harvard just did one on kids of divorce. And what they say is it's better for them to be in 2 happy homes than 1 unhappy home. It's like proven. Those haters out there, it's just me making this up. It's like research has shown.
Absolutely. I had a divorce attorney on the show not that long ago, Morgan Foster, and she was talking about, that the research shows that it's not actually divorce that fucks kids up. It's actually the conflict around the divorce that fucks kids up.
And putting kids in the middle. I think that's really an important thing to note. It's like, if you're going to get divorced, how can you best protect your kids? Don't put them in the middle. Learn how to communicate with your ex at that point in a really adult way.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a lot of people. And I get it. If your main worry is your kids, think about it this way. Your kids love you and their dad the same.
Yes.
Also, don't talk bad about your ex.
That's
really hard to do too.
Yes, it is. But yeah, bash your ex to your best friend. Bash your ex to your mom. Don't bash your ex. I don't care no matter what they've done to you. And I know a lot of people are like, but you don't understand. No, I'm sorry. I draw a hard line on that. I've been through a lot with my ex, and I can tell you, like, and I'm not perfect at it, but man, I'm real
None of us are.
intentional. Yeah, I'm really intentional of never talking bad about them and always trying to come from an aligned place.
We all have oopsies.
Even though I want to punch him in the face like half the time. Yeah, sure.
But here's the thing. Your children are half you and half your ex. So when you bash them, they feel like you're bashing your kid.
Yes.
Think of it that way.
I think that's so powerful. If somebody is listening to this, and that is a belief that they have, that they are staying together for the benefit of their kids, I would just invite you to reevaluate that. What's really the benefit that's serving you in that? What is that really covering up for you or like masking for you? And I don't want to say it's like a cop-out or excuse. That sounds very insensitive. But you know what I'm saying? What's really underneath that? Because like you just said, like we can take that off the table because research shows that is actually not true. So you continuing to tell yourself that, you're just doing a disservice to your children and to yourself. Let me just say, I realize what I just said could come off very judgmental. I want to just be really clear here, you guys. Listen, I know none of this shit is easy. I also waffled back and forth of whether or not I should stay for the children. I'm not coming from this place of judgment at all. I feel so passionate about that because I'm also a child of divorce. My parents were divorced when I was 7. And I think that me turning out okay is up for discussion, I guess. However, I think I'm pretty adjusted. I would just say that I really do think that as a kid, why it wasn't as traumatic for me as a kid is because my parents worked really, really hard to co-parent well. And that's what I remember is that situation. So anyways, I just wanted to share that. But the other thing that I want, yeah, of course.
I just want to add to that. So we look at our kids and we're so worried. My kids, I've been divorced 8 years. They're 18, 16, and 13 now.
Yeah.
They are so well adjusted. They are thriving. My relationship with them, we're super tight. We're super close. That's up to you. That all looks like these are all choices you guys get to make.
Yes.
It's like they're going to go not have a great, successful life. That's on you to parent a certain way. It actually has nothing to do with divorce. We're all messing up our kids in some way.
Sure.
Married,
100%.
not married, whatever.
Yes.
We just put this huge like cloud over us. Oh, if you're going to get divorced, you're messing your kids up. Like I'm going to call bullshit on that big time.
Yeah.
It's who you are as a parent to them through all of it. Will it change them? 100%.
Yes.
That doesn't mean it's going to change them for the worse.
Yeah, 1,000%. Also, I will say, and I'm totally generalizing here. It's fine. It's my show. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Okay. And I'm going to say this. What I find, especially on social media, is that, man, it's mostly the men that come at me with that kind of talk. So I don't know if you experience that too, but it's typically the men who feel very triggered on social media, any kind of discussion around that.
I have a lot of men haters.
I was going to say, like, I know now that I have really shifted in my brand as far as like business coaching, I get less of it. I can't even imagine the hate you get from so many of these men. And, and I'm sure you, obviously from doing the inner work as well, like, that it has nothing to do with you. You know that they are just using you as an outlet for their own pain. And it's just wild.
Hurt people, hurt people.
Hurt people, hurt people. That's exactly right. Yeah. It is crazy though. I've gotten everything from dick pics all the way to being called like a cum dumpster on the social.
I get a lot of men who, you got divorced. Now you're just using his money to live your life.
Oh, yeah.
I don't actually get a dime from my ex-husband. Those, if you only knew.
Oh, yeah. I know. Okay. There's a lot of my divorce story that I don't share public for the protection of my kids. So when I get a lot of hate, I'm just, you have no idea what you're even talking about. Anyways, one of the things I wanted to talk about though is for that woman who has gotten to the clarity piece of, okay, this is a relationship that's no longer serving me. I'm wondering if you see this in your practice, because I know I experienced myself. It was, okay, I spent all this time in this totally, like you said, dysregulated nervous system, totally not knowing up from down. And then I finally get to that piece of clarity. Okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to file divorce. But for me, what kind of caught me off guard was then like the next kind of phase of that really took me out for a little while was the massive guilt and also the fear of judgment. Mm-hmm. Okay, people are going to look at me now. Oh my God, I failed. What does that say about me? I had so many worries about people, what they were going to say, what they were going to speculate about why the marriage ended. All of it. I had a lot of guilt about my kids. What piece of advice would you give? Like once that woman that like makes that clarity decision, how do they navigate all of those other emotions that may take them by surprise?
Judgment, I usually say, like, people care a whole lot less than what you think they do. And it's true. Usually you judging yourself. So let's get clear on what the judgment really is. What are you judging about yourself? You just said that, like a failure. All relationships come to an end. There's always a beginning, middle, and end. This just ended before you were ready, before you thought. Getting clear on what that all is. And I too had crazy guilt. Like, oh my gosh, I couldn't actually say I was a single mom for years. It couldn't come out of my mouth. So the irony that this is what I do for a living now.
Yes, I get that. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah.
And that goes back to just true healing. There's something inside of you that doesn't actually believe you're worthy of being happy, putting yourself first. We're so just used to putting everyone else above us, especially as moms, especially as wives. And then all of a sudden, who are you? Getting clear on that. And where is the guilt coming from? What does it actually mean? Always, all the inner work, it's curious. Going deeper, that's the surface. The guilt is the surface. I feel so guilty. I don't want to do this. I don't want to hurt anyone. But you're hurting yourself. It's learning truly how to love yourself. I had a call right before we got on this and I was like, how do you love yourself? She literally sat there, I kid you not, for 2 minutes. And then she came up with, oh, well, I buy myself nice things. I'm like, how do you love your kids? I read to them. I cook for them. I give them hugs. I tell them I love them. You couldn't come up with anything for 2 minutes on how to love yourself. And then it was about buying yourself something. But when I asked you how you love your kids, it was like, do we see a problem with that? How can you start to love yourself more? Because the truth is, no one's going to love you more than you love yourself ever. Self-love is not being greedy. It's not being selfish. It's actually the greatest gift you can give yourself, because the more you love yourself, the more love you have to give, the more love you can receive.
Yes.
The better parent you can be. Because at the end of the day, as a mom, we all want to be the best mom possible.
Absolutely.
Guilt is not going to allow you to be the best mom possible.
That's an emotion that's wasted energy, honestly. What are some of the ways then that you encourage your clients to, who already feel stretched so thin, who already probably tell themselves, I don't have time to take care of me, or whatever that looks like? Like, what are some ways that you help your clients to show more love for themselves?
Start really simple and look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you. I mean, when's the last time you did that? And maybe it feels awkward and weird. That just means you need to do it more. So just start there. There's like little acts of self-love you can do throughout the day. Those are positive affirmations. I am enough. I am good enough. The more you tell yourself that, the more you'll start to believe it. Our brains are insanely powerful. Do kind things for yourself. What lights you up? What makes you feel good? Energy needs to move. So is it dancing in your house? Is it going for a walk? Is it going for a hike? Is it going to the gym? Is it cooking yourself a nice meal? Whatever it is, start doing kind things for yourself. Really sitting in it. Oh, I just did this for me. How does that feel? Start to memorize what it feels like to feel enough, feel that love. from yourself.
I love that. I even think, and I even noticed for myself, can even be really simple things that you'd never even think about. But like, so for instance, on my desk right here, I have a candle with one of those wax melt things. And it sounds so stupid, but lighting the candle of one of my favorite scents, I don't even know how to describe it, but yes, I do feel a little bit more cared for. I feel it's just the energy that it creates. I think oftentimes we think about self-care as like freaking a manicure and a pedicure and a bubble bath or whatever. Like, guess what? Sometimes that shit's not accessible. You can only get so many manicures in a week. Talking about this kind of radical self-love of doing things every damn day. It's not once a week for a massage or a pedicure. Those things are great, but it's like, how can you find things at a very small scale, lighting a damn candle, that the smell, turning on your favorite song. I know that sounds maybe dumb. I listen to Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody every single morning when I get out of the shower. Why? Because it makes me so effing happy.
I love that. Mel Robbins has the book, The High Five Habit.
Yeah.
And she says, like, give yourself a high five in the mirror every day. That's actually self-love. Like telling yourself you're proud of yourself. When's the last time you said, I'm proud of you? Find something that you are proud of. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's you did something amazing at work. Maybe you did something kind. Here's great advice. At the end of the day, look back on your day and name 3 things that you're like, oh, damn. Like, that was really good. Yeah. There's always 3 things. Maybe like you just gave your kid a hug. Maybe you sent your friend a message telling them how much you love them. Like, I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, the more you'll see, oh, things are okay.
Absolutely. I love that. As we wrap up, one of the things that you have in your business that I absolutely love, we talked about this before we hit record, is you have a community that you have started called the Happy Hour Community, which I am so on fire for. I love it. Who is this community for? What are you guys doing in this community?
I love the community. It's such an awesome place to be. If you're in the should I stay, should I go place, even if you're in your divorce or after your divorce and you want a community of like-minded individuals, there's actually men and women in there that I love because you get both points of view. And it's really just about getting advice from people that are going through it or been through it. I'm in there. My good friend Alessandra at Mama's Guide to Divorce is in there as well. We're both just collaborating to really like help you guys. It's everything we wish we would have had. So there's also, we call it divorce flicks, where there's like these little 5 to 10 minute videos in there. Oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. What do I do? Hit play. Or I am feeling a lot of anxiety today. Like, here's some tips. Or it's just little motivational videos in there. There's all sorts of different resources. It's really, really magical. We do 2 live calls a month where you can ask us anything. I usually kind of do a deep dive, a little like teaching something on something. It's different. And we encourage our members to, can you do a call on this? Can you do a call on that? And we are here for all of it. It's really, really beautiful. It's $29 or $27 a month. It's super accessible. We did that on purpose as well because we want to make sure that everyone gets the support they need and want. And yeah, we'd love to have you. So if you're interested, go to my Instagram. It's in my link in bio. It's called the Happy Hour. It could be really great to have you all there.
I love it. Well, I feel like we could talk for hours. There's so many more questions I have for you. And so just bring you on back over here to talk. This is such a big topic for women. It's not only just answering the question, should I stay or should I go? What I love though about your coaching is also it's then empowering women with the tools to then answer the question, well, then now what? Once you've made that decision, whether or not it's staying or going. And I know there's a lot of women who are listening to this who are divorced. They had made that decision to maybe go, or maybe it wasn't their choice, but they are divorced. They are still looking at their life and just wondering, okay, well, like now what? How do I, and I know that you help your clients with and really embody just in your own work to really move forward and be happy post-divorce.
Thank you so much for having me. I love being on here. This is so fun.
Absolutely. Where can the listeners reach out and find you?
The best place to find me is on Instagram. I'm at lisamiller.coach. Would love for anyone who's on here, reach out, send me a DM, say hi. Would love to talk to anyone that has any questions. Happy to do all of that.
I love it. Thanks so much, Lisa.
Thank you.